Saturday and Sunday, October 5th and 6th at the Honda Casino Resort in Pine Top, Arizona. 1028 Productions and Whispering Pines Resort Cabins is proud to present Disclosure Con 2019. The one event in the White Mountains where sci-fi and sci-reality collide under one roof. There will be vendors, photo ops, cosplay characters, speakers, artists, YouTube celebs, researchers, and more. Scheduled to appear, President Dwight D. Eisenhower's great-granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower. Published author, inventor, and host of X Square Radio, Brooks Agnew. Hosts of the YouTube hit show, Edge of Wonder, Ben Chastain and Rob Counts. Creator of the children's shows, Growums and Friendlyans, Joel Christopher Payne. Actress, model, musician, and ufologist speaker Paula Asteria. Host of The Leak Project, the legend himself, Rex Bear. Award-winning Sholo MUFON director, David Loomis. Leading paranormal researcher from the UK, Don Phillips. Creator and host of the SciSpy.tv network, Suzanne Ross. From the YouTube show Mysterious Forces Live, Natasha Nix. From the SciSpy TV network show World Stompers, Brad Olson. Directors of Arizona MUFON and Phoenix MUFON, Stacy Wright and Jim Mann. And from the show 1028 Live and your host for Disclosure Con 2019, Doc Skinner. For more info, tickets, or VIP passes, please go to disclosurecon.com. You can also purchase tickets or VIPs at Big Kid Gamer Lounge in Lakeside, Arizona. VIP pass holders receive early access both days of entry to VIP after party Saturday night at the legendary Lodge Bar and Grill in Pine Top with our guest speakers and DJ Jay Allen playing music all night. Entry is Sunday night's fireside chat with our guest speakers and you. Get your tickets or VIP passes now. I wish Zoom had a countdown so I knew when I was on the air. Redirecting to Facebook. I'm in here. I think we're on, but I don't know because I don't know. Oh, yeah, we are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Doc Skinner with 1028 Live, coming to you from my little dungeon, my laboratory here, September 27th, 2019. It's Friday night. That's right, Friday night. I don't normally do Fridays. It's normally just Tuesday and Thursday, but this has been a special week. Every single night, I've had amazing guests, one after the other. And folks, I have to top the night off, of course, with somebody amazing. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But we're going to pay the bills real quick, get all this out of the way. Of course, you know what we're all about here at 1028 Live. It is Disclosure Con 2019 at the Honda Casino Resort, October 5th and 6th. And it's going to be epic. I mean, epic. And then next year is even going to be twice as epic, and I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do it. But it's going to be awesome. So, if you don't have your tickets yet or your VIP passes, you need to get them now. Go to disclosurecon.com. I only have a certain number of VIP passes left, so we have 200 of them because that's what the holds for the Lodge Bar and Grill. So we only got 50 left. So if you want to get a VIP pass, get it today. Go there now, disclosurecon.com. If you're here on the mountain, go to Big Kid Gamer Lounge in Lakeside next door to the WME Theater, or you can go to Sweet Peas Infusion Cafe across from Safeway and McDonald's in Lakeside off White Mountain Boulevard, or you can go to one of our sponsors, our other sponsor, the Lodge Bar and Grill, where we'll be having the VIP party there, and you can get your tickets or VIP passes or tickets for your VIP passes there. Now, if you do have VIP passes, I know there's a lot out there. You bring your email with your thing. and we exchange it for a pass for the weekend. The event starts at 10 a.m. For VIPs, and then 11 a.m. for the public. It'll go till 8 o'clock, and then Saturday night at 8:30, we have the VIP party, after party at the Lodge Bar and Grill, and it is decked out. It's covered in lasers. We got UFOs. I mean, it's legit. And then we have on Sunday, same scenario with Sunday night. We have a special VIP fireside chat with our speakers. So if you want to have some question time, that's the place to do it. Tickets, you still get to do everything else. Children 12 and under are free, so parents don't have to worry about that babysitter. But please don't bring all the parents' kids on the street, just yours, okay? Then we have, what else? Oh, the photo area is amazing. I want another props to my crew and just all of them. I'll introduce them all to you live at the event, but when you see what they've put together, it's going to blow your mind. One of the photo sets will allow you to defy gravity. It's pretty cool. All right, so who's coming to Disclosure Con? Let me go down the list, shall I? We've got President Dwight D. Eisenhower's great-granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower. We have from the new Star Trek Picard, Paula Asteria. We have from the Leak Project, Rex Bear. From Sholo, the director of the Sholo MUFON, David Loomis. The UK's leading paranormal investigator, Don Phillips. The one and only Brooks Agnew. From Arizona State and Phoenix MUFON, we have Stacy Wright and Jim Mann. And from the Edge of Wonder show, the just kick butt show from YouTube, Rob and Ben will be here as well. We also have Disney's leading top artist in the world, Joel Christopher Payne, with his show Friendlians. We're going to do a really cool special thing. So this is for the kids. They're going to love it. My dear friend, Suzanne Ross, the founder of the SciSpy.tv network. Our dear good friend, Natasha Nix from the Mysterious Forces Live. She'll be there interviewing everybody. And our other dear friend, Brad Olson and Emily Infinity, who are from the show World Stompers. They're going to be talking about their most recent trip in the past few months, coming back from Antarctica. And there will be footage. So lots of things, lots of vendors. I mean, we have 33 booths, folks. This is going to be huge. So get your tickets now. Once again, disclosurecon.com. Now, before we go to our guest, I want to say hello to everybody. And, I got to come up with a cool name for all these regulars. All the people are here every night. I love you all so much. And I got to think of something cool for you guys. Trista, Stormy, and 5 others. It won't tell me the other 5. I hate it when it does that. Cheryl, Cicely, let's see, Vanessa, Becky, going down the list. It's a long list here. Hold on. Slowing down. Jojo, Mary, Barb, Paul, Trisha, Norma, Kathy, Laura, Richard, Sandy, Mike, Ruben, Crystal, Shay. Oh man, you gotta tell me how to pronounce your say, Mr. Lopez. Is it S-H-A-O? Is it Shay or I want to say it right. Anyway, so everybody's saying hello. Let's see. Hi again. Well, guys, you guys are awesome. I'll respond to all these after the show. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Wow. You guys are just amazing. All right. So I want a bunch of hearts. Oh, there you are. I want a bunch of hearts right now if you're ready to meet my next guest on tonight's show. Oh my gosh. There's so much you could say about him, and I want to leave it to him, but let me just give you just in a sentence. All right. His name is James Goodall. He's a U.S. Air Force retired. He's a world-renowned expert on the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane and the F-117 stealth fighter and Area 51. He has over 25 books, I think I can safely say, because I know he's working on some new ones. And he's going to be there. Oh, look at all those hearts. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. All right. All I could say is I told him before the show, if my dad was alive, he would be so jealous of me right now. So this one's for you, Dad. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hit the unmute button, and I would like to proudly introduce to you James Goodall.
Doc, it's a delight to be here. It was fun meeting you in Phoenix here a couple of weeks ago. And I have a story to tell, and I'm glad you're going to be one of the first guys in recent time. I've been a talking head 50 times in the last 30 years, but I was off the mainland for 4 years. I was from Hawaii, and then when I retired, I've been in Arizona, and I've been just writing books. So it's just been within the last probably since this spring that I've actually gotten re-involved, getting back into things that go bump in the night, Area 51, Bob Lazar, and the rest of the things that happen out in the desert that the government doesn't want us to know about.
Yes, and I have to say, you introduced yourself in a way that brought us here today.
Uh-huh.
You came on. I was watching Natasha Nix, and this encounter between you and me, I owe it to Natasha Nix from Mysterious Forces Live. She had me come to the conference, and I was manning her booth while she was in listening to Jeremy Corbell speak. I think he was winning the ufologist award for the year, ufologist of the year or something like that. And I saw you walking by. The place was kind of empty because everybody was in there watching him. And I saw you stroll by, and you kind of tilted your head sideways going, "What is Mysterious Forces Live?" And I explained it to you and how Natasha wasn't here. She was, and then you heard Jeremy Corbell, and then you just leaned in and said, "I knew, I knew Bob Lazar before most people did." And my response was, "Sit down. Tell me a story." I mean, I remember every second of it. It was just an epic moment.
Well, it was meant to be.
Yes.
It was everything just sort of lined up and came together. And your statement that I knew Bob Lazar when, I knew him before he went to work out in the desert.
Mm.
I'll get to that in a little bit. But far as my background goes,
yes, please.
I started my fascination with airplanes when I was about 5 years old. My dad came into, we were living in San Jose. I had already gone to bed. My dad came in and he said, "I don't know what's coming, but you got to see it." So we went outside, and we lived in San Jose at the time. And over the Coast Mountains were not one, not two, but 24 Convair B-36s heading back to Travis. And that sort of cemented my love affair with airplanes and machines in general. Fast forward until about 7 or 8, now living in Los Altos, the home of Silicon Valley, Los Altos Mountain View area. And my best friend's dad was base commander at Moffett Field. Now, we were referred to as Captain Smith's son and that friend of his. I was that friend of his. And one of the days I was over there, he said, "There's something so cool in the big hangar, you got to see it." So what is it? So I'm not going to tell you, let's go see it. Now, this is 54, 55, somewhere along that line, a long time ago. For a sake of a time hack, I'm 74. And Danny and I went into the big hangar one at Moffett. We went to the far end on the bay side of the hangar. And there was an area that was cordoned off. It was curtains, and it said off limits. Well, a couple 7 and 8-year-old kids are going to ignore those signs, especially when we had a run of the place. So Danny pushed aside the curtains, and there's no guard. And sitting there, bright and shiny, was the XF-104 Starfighter. That was my first introduction to the Skunk Works. And we walked around it. I mean, it was like seeing the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, in someone's garage. So Danny said, "Well, you have one, I know."
I have one in the garage right now. We built.
Yeah. So Danny said, get in the cockpit. So I did. I pulled the ladder down, I closed the canopy, and then I'm going to open the canopy, and the latch malfunctioned. We did something wrong. So we had to call Shore Patrol and the Marine Guards to get me out. Now, that was almost 70 years ago, 65 years ago. My butt still hurts. We got my butt chewed out really good. Fast forward, I went in the Air Force, stationed in Denver. I was a telemetry specialist. This is the old Lowry Air Force Base outside of Denver. I had set orders to go TDY to Edwards. Now, this is February 1964. So I arrive at Edwards. I have orders to support 3 programs going through Category 1 testing. YC-141 Starlifter, XB-70 Valkyrie, and a classified program. Now, on the morning of February 29th, leap year, 2 YF-12s flew in from Area 51 into Edwards, and they set off the deluge system and almost drowned the Lockheed reps. That's pumping 60,000 gallons a second into the hangar. It's just, if there's a fire, they want to put it out right now.
Wow. So
all the fire alarms went off, and we were 8 miles from the flight line, and somebody had already taken my truck. So I had to wait 10 days before I saw my first blackbird. I heard them, but I was always inside installing something or working on something. And on March 10th, 1964, I was waiting for the shuttle to fly me to Hawthorne there in LA. It was a Northrop shuttle. And as we're waiting for the airplane, it was a Piaggio, it was a gull-wing pusher executive type. It wasn't a business jet, but a business, it would be an executive type airplane. I heard a roar, and I went running down the flight line and looked at the XB-70 test pad. And at first I thought it was the X-15. It's black, it had a square top tail, fires coming out of the rear end. Just unbelievable. But the people were too small. And all of a sudden I hear, hey, we're loading. So we jump into, run back to the airplane, I get in, we take off, and we bank right over the Blackbird. We took off over Rogers Doyle. You probably couldn't do it today. It would be against the rules. And we banked over the Blackbird, and they already shut it down, and they were towing a C-130 in front of it. I looked down, and that was the most incredible event of my life. I have never been the same. And when I came back on that following Monday, my set of orders were to the Lockheed hangar. I go into the Lockheed hangar, and I go in there, I'm looking at the rear end of 2 Blackbirds.
Oh, wow.
And I have never ever been the same. It just sort of cemented my passion for all things skunk works.
And real quick, can we just publicly make the correction? I misunderstood, thought you were a designer. You worked on it.
I worked on it. Correct.
Yes, so we'll make that correction right now. If anybody saw the previous post, I just got excited. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I've been so misquoted and misaligned over the years. It doesn't bother me. So,
well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right, and about a week and a half after I saw the Blackbird for the first time, and I got back to Edwards. We were over on the turnoff on the runway. We're about 200 yards off the edge of the runway, fixing some nav aids. And 2 Blackbirds, 2 YF-12s took off together. Wow. Now, 1 Blackbird's loud. 2 Blackbirds, not twice it. It's the cube. It is, it's just, your body is just pulsating. Wow. And that was really the beginning of my love affair of the Blackbird. And you wouldn't even know who I was if it wasn't for the official policy of the United States Air Force not to cooperate. After I got out of the service, I went back in 10 years later, but after I got out of the service, I sent a letter to Lockheed, to Department of Defense, to CIA, and to Air Force requesting non-classified photos of the SR-71. I didn't know about the A-12. I didn't know about the D-21. And they wouldn't give me anything. They ignored me. So I started digging. And the more I dug, the more I found out. The more I found out, the deeper I dug. And I got to the point where, according to Ben Rich, my dear friend from the Skunk Works, he was the boss there after Kelly retired. Mm-hmm. From a historical point of view, no one knows more about the program than me. And Don Emmons is a former Blackbird pilot. I sent him my recently published Sheffer book on the Blackbird. And he's an SR-71 pilot. And we went round and round over the years. He worked in security at Norton for most of the 1980s. And every time he'd see the name Goodall, he would just swear to himself. So, and I've talked to him over the years at Blackbird Reunion, which I was booted out of because one of the president of the organization, he wants to be the only authority on the Blackbird. But I sent Don my book, and Don thought it was just, he told me, well, it's probably just another Blackbird book. And he got it, and he put it on his shrine in his living room. He said,
Wow.
I thought it was to be another Blackbird book, but it isn't. And I cover everything. It's 224 pages, 710 photos. About a third of the photos have never been in print before. Wow. So that was a 50-year effort to put that together. And so my involvement in Black programs in Area 51, most everything I enjoy and I dig into were all originally flight tested at Area 51. And that leads to me being the first civilian to photograph the F-117. Wow. It was they had announced the existence of the airplane, but no one had really seen it. I had driven up to Las Vegas, and my dear friend John Lear, the son of the famous William Lear of Learjet, and John's a character. We had a US 95 heading for Tonopah, and just about Scotty's Junction, an F-117 flew low level right over us. I mean, we almost crashed the car. Wow. So we made it into Tonopah. We went down US 6, and we got to the turnoff to Tonopah test range. We went all the way down there, drove along the fence line, and I had my camera with me, my telephoto, but I was shooting print film. This is before digital, and I photographed 2 F-117s with a T-38 chase coming in on final to Area 51. Now my hand shaking like this. It was like being 10 or 11 years old and seeing my first naked woman. My whole body was surging. And out of 36 exposures, only about 2 or 3 that weren't blurred. That's how, you have a question.
Yeah, did you say T-38s?
Yeah, they use that as a chase.
That's what my dad flew.
Okay.
That C-130s, so.
Yeah. The T-38 is a high-speed supersonic trainer. And it's a wonderful chase plane. They use the T-38s at Beale to chase U-2s and Blackbirds. And also pilot proficiency. They did the same thing Holloman and TTR when flying the F-117s. So I'm with Lear. We're heading back to Las Vegas where he lives. But we're coming around now. We drove through Rachel. It wasn't. I don't think it was called a Little Lately in there yet. And we drove down the back road to Area 51. This is where the Storm Area 51 guys were last week. And we drove right past the sign that said, restricted area, use of deadly force authorized, no photography, this, that. We drove about a half mile in through the foothills to a guard shack. And you could see the entire complex behind us. And a nice guy, and one of the Whack and Hut guys came out, very nice young kid. Said, "What are you guys doing?" He said, "We're bird watchers. The metal ones, not the feathered ones."
Yeah.
And he said, and about the same time, another guard's coming out of the guard shack, putting a 30-round clip into his M16 and loading it. Putting a round in the chamber. And he was a reject from the NFL because he was too big. And Lear said, "Do you mind if I photograph the guard shack?" Because, you could see the whole Area 51 behind it. And the big guy said, "If you do, you're going to be interviewed by some really unfriendly people." With that, John and I hightailed out of the place. But we're in Area 51. We're in there for about 15 minutes. So we head back to Vegas. We get there. It's about 9:15 in the evening. It's about 9:15. I have print film. Back then they had things called photo mats.
Yeah, the little
photo
huts.
mats. Yeah, it's like a barista coffee place now. But they used to. That's where you brought your film to have it processed. And I was kind of frustrated. It was about 9:15. We got to Lear's place, and he said, "Hey, I got a buddy of mine coming over in about 10 minutes. Probably enjoy meeting him. He's a fascinating guy." So about 10 minutes later, a guy knocks on the front door. He comes in and said, "Jim, I'd like to introduce you to Bob Lazar."
Wow.
I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Well, I'm here interviewing for a job out in the desert." And I was working at Sandia. He said, I was designing nuclear weapons. He said, we're trying to get the kill ratio down to 11 or 10.5 or 11 cents per fatality. That's something to really think about when you're working, designing bombs. So I said, well, I have some film of the F-117. I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow to get it processed. And Bob said, I got a C-41 processor at home. Let's go. So we jump in his car and we're heading over to West Charleston. And Lazard looks at me. Now, he hasn't gone to work out in the desert yet.
Okay.
He said, I feel sorry for John Lear. I said, why is that? He's a Lear. He's part of his dad brought Learjet to the world. He's part of the world, one of the most famous aviation families, short of the Wright brothers.
Right. Yeah.
I said, and the idiot believes in UFOs. He said, I'm a nuclear physicist. If I can't prove it mathematically or put my hands on it, it doesn't exist. And we just kept on chattering and stuff like that. But I didn't realize the significance of that comment until later, when George Knapp had him as a silhouetted head talking about doing reverse engineering on alien spacecraft. And also on that visit to his house, again, this is before he went to work at S4, I saw a diploma on his wall, and it was very fancy, and I've seen the MIT diploma before, and I didn't stare at it, I just glanced at it. This is 1988, so it's been a few years. I have a really good memory. But Bob did not believe in UFOs. Fast forward a year or so, he comes out of the cold. And the thing about Bob, his story has never changed. When I think George Knapp, when he interviewed Edward Teller just said no comment. Now, I've been involved I had a very high clearance for 27 years. And if someone mentions or says something about something that's classified, you make no comment. You can't say yes or no. Well, I'd much rather not say. You say no comment. You cannot confirm or deny the existence of a classified program. If Bob was a fraud, everybody that he said he worked with or hired him, all they'd have to say, since if Bob was a fraud, they're not releasing anything classified, all they'd have to say is he's full of baloney. He's not who he says he is. He's a fraud. And absolutely no one said that.
That is
true. And George Knapp said when he went to Albuquerque and he went to the Sandia Library on the public side, and he found a phone book, the time frame that Bob was there, and opened up the book, and there's Bob Lazar with the phone number he said he had and the room number he said he worked in, and the people he said that worked in the same lab, they had the same phone number and the same room number. The other thing that George did, that he went into the local Albuquerque newspaper because they did a story on Bob. Professor Bob Lazar likes to drive fast on weekends. He had a jet-powered, fiberglass-bodied Lamborghini, and he'd go to the local drag strip and hit 300 miles an hour in a quarter mile.
Wow.
So there's another, Bob is who he says he is. Bob, he did work at Sandia because he was written up in the local Albuquerque newspaper. And he's, like I say, he could have made a lot of money if he was willing to exaggerate or to, add a lot of fluff to his story. But his story has never changed. Another gentleman that I ran into because of the F-117 program, I met him at the Air Force Museum. He's a retired E-8 senior master sergeant. And he was the first enlisted guy in the 117. And he spent 3 years at Area 51. And they had Humvees available, and their security badge was good for anywhere in the Nevada test site. So he and a couple other guys are driving around just to see the place. They had probably gone to the Sedan crater, but they were driving around the the Papoose Range, which is the backdrop to Area 51, and they're on the Papoose dry lake bed. And out of nowhere came 3 or 4 security people dressed in black with their hands on their weapons. And he said, "What are you doing here?" My friend Roy showed him his badge. The other guy showed him the line badge. He said, "You have no reason to be here. Leave and don't come back." Now, there was no indication that there was anything there, but the Papoose Lake is the southwest corner of the Papoose Range, the exact spot that Bob said S4 is located.
Wow.
And S4 is inside the base of the mountain.
Yeah.
So where did these guys, Roy said he had no idea where these guys came from. They looked around, there were no vehicles. He didn't see any door anywhere. They just appeared. They came from somewhere. They just appeared and they left. And he didn't think anything about it until much, much later. And we were, when we sat down, we were shooting the bull one day, and that's when he was telling me, what happened. And I didn't mention Bob Lazar. I didn't mention S4. He just thought it was kind of weird that people would come out of nowhere and suggest that they leave this, this location, which was the Papoose Lake, dry lake bed, where
Wow.
S4 is supposed to be located.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is wow.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you're saying that, and I'm thinking, okay, is there a trap door in the ground, or is there a invisible barrier that they walk through?
Roy said he looked around and he couldn't figure out where they came from, but they were there. They were armed, and they felt, well, maybe it's a good idea if we just don't come back. And he left. And he didn't know if the place was radioactive or whatever. I mean, they just said, leave.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to argue with them and left.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I would just talk more. Tell me more. This is awesome. So those were your friends. Now, I just so much I want to ask, but I'm worried of, it being something you can't answer.
There isn't anything.
Well,
you can ask me. If I know the answer, I will give it to you.
Well, let's do this real quick. Let's say hello to everybody that has jumped on since last time, and some people have got some comments. Let's see. David Dennis says it's such an honor to have James with us tonight. Beverly says hello, Mr. Goodall. Let's see. Elizabeth, Jennifer, Aaron, James has joined. Trista says good evening, Mr. Goodall. Esther has joined. Laura says this is such awesome information. Love true stories. Nicole, Scout, Tammy, Richard, Thomas, Valerie have all joined. Mike says hi. Trista just says wow. And then it says amazing, Mr. Goodall. Pat Leal has joined. Jason Ryan has joined. Tanya. David says this is awesome. Would love to hear. Oh, yeah, here's a question. Would love to hear more about the Aurora program, SR 74, 75, and the TR3B. So hold on to that question. Let me just say hello. Emily, Sean, Julian, Zany, Y, and J. Thanks for joining. Okay, so can you tell us about any of those programs?
What I know, yes.
Okay.
I had a very, very dear friend who was an air traffic controller. His name was Robert Garrow. He's since passed away. We were roommates in Denver in 1962. Bob didn't know what my fascination was with the Blackbird Area 51 and things that go bump in the night. And he was one of only 9 air traffic controllers that did not go out on strike during the Reagan era when all the air traffic controllers went out. He stayed. He said he had 19 years as an air traffic controller and he wasn't going to throw that away. So he said it was about 1982. He's at the Bay Area Tracon in Oakland. And all of a sudden, something goes through his controlled airspace with a transponder, which means it was a manned air-breathing platform of some sort. 1982-83 time frame. and it was going to magnetic 310. And if you draw a line from Area 51 to Coos Bay, that's about the track that it was flying. And it went through his airspace, they estimate at Mach 12. So
Wait,
they called,
how fast is a Mach again?
it's about 8,000 miles an hour, Mach 12.
Wow.
So they immediately called Beale because this airplane had priority over the SR-71, which operated out of Beale Air Force Base north of Sacramento. The only airplane that has priority over the SR-71 is Air Force One. Now this thing was below Air Force One, but a higher priority than the SR-71. So they called Beale, and a full bird colonel and a young captain came. Now the colonel went to talk with the general manager, and the captain came over to Bob. Now Bob was passionate about his job. He loved it, and he was probably one of the best controllers they ever had. And this captain said, well, Mr. Garrow, you probably didn't know what you were looking at. And Bob gets up and puts his nose right in this guy's face. He said, look, buddy boy, I've been controlling high-speed aircraft, U-2s, WB-57s, a space shuttle, SR-71s, before your dad poked your mother for the first time. And all of a sudden the colonel comes running out of the office and says, no, Mr. Garrow, you don't understand. You didn't see a thing. I said, well, I can accept that. And he forgot about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, as far as UFOs go, I have never seen one, but I have interviewed people who've seen it or chased it, or had something to do with it, such as Bob. There's a SR-71 pilot. He's long retired. I think he's not very mobile anymore. And I interviewed him 3 different times, primarily about his time as a Blackbird pilot. And he became the facility manager at Area 51 from 80 to 85. And I asked him, I said, Dave, is there underground facilities at Area 51? He said, I went looking for them since I was the facility manager, and I was responsible for every structure in the complex, from a paint locker to Hangar 18, which is the big hangar. That was initially designed for a B-52, but they made the opening about a foot too short. So that's where they worked on the Janet flights. The Janet 737s were there, and that's where they did a lot of maintenance. Also, I believe that Hangar 18 was used for demate for Aurora. But Dave said after he got comfortable with everybody, he started asking around is there underground facilities or this and that, whatever, and there aren't any. But he said the technology is at the Nevada test site. They can go through solid granite with a 36-foot, not an inch, 36-foot diameter hole, and they can grind it through about a foot an hour. So they have the ability. But he said the thing about the desert does not heal itself very fast. General Pershing's train tracks that happened during World War I are still out near 29 Palms. The desert doesn't heal. So if there's a major underground facility, you're gonna have to have a road going in and out. And as you go, when you dig into something, there's a debris field, and that will be visible as well. He said, so he looked. So I asked him, I said, well, do you believe in UFOs? And he said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, do you want to expand upon that? And he said, sure. Now, he's since denied it, and I just found a whole box of cassette tapes. One of them was one of his interviews, but I interviewed him 3 times. He said he was on a night training mission, 1972, flying an SR-71 at Kadena, Okinawa. About 11 o'clock at night, about a 3/4 moon. He said it was at Mach 2.7, which is about 17 or 1800 miles an hour, at about 78,000 feet, 3/4 moon. and he's going in a straight line. And all of a sudden he gets a glint off of something that is about 5 miles away to his right and maybe 5,000 or 6,000 feet above him. Said it's metallic and he's getting glints off the moon. So he said he contacted Kadena on secure voice to see if there was another SR-71 up there. He's in the far Western Pacific near the Philippines. And said, no, you're up there by yourself. And he said, no, I'm not. I'm gonna go take a look. So he advanced the throttle. He starts climbing, and about a 10-degree bank, he's banking towards this object. He figured he was up to about 83, 84,000 feet. This thing's still a little bit higher than him, and he's still a mile or so away, and he can't get a definition of what this thing looks like other than it's shiny, it's metallic. All of a sudden, this thing takes off on about a 30-degree angle of attack and left him like he was heading the other direction. And he figured he lost it going through between 180 and 200,000 feet, and he estimated the speed Mach 12, Mach 16. It was just, so when he got to Area 51, he started inquiring. Who built it? Where's it at? Is it flight tested here? Nobody would admit that anything like that was ever developed in Area 51. And this is before the Aurora, right? And I believe the Aurora is real. For the simple fact, in February of '82, I was at the Prom Center in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it was engineering week at the Honeywell Avionics Division. They call it the Ridgeway Division. So everybody who built the stabilization augmentation system, the autopilot, all the avionics and stuff for the Blackbirds, the YF-12, the A-12, the D-21, and the SR, these are the guys who designed it. Their keynote speaker was Kelly Johnson. And I was invited by the director of engineering. So Kelly's up there talking about this and that, and he's talking about, says, you know, like, so you all know about the agency's bird and the interceptor and the SR, but we can't talk about the little bird, referring to the D-21. Said, but there's our plastic kit guy in San Diego that's has made models of it, or talked about producing models of the little bird. And there's some character lives up here in the Midwest somewhere, referring to me. Said they can talk about it, but I can't. So he's referring to the D-21 drone. He said, 1982, said, we have the capability to go to Mach 4, Mach 6, Mach 8, Mach 12, Mach 16. Speed costs money. How fast do you want to go? And that told me right then and there that we had the ability in 1982 to go at least Mach 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And the other thing about Aurora is to step back and we'll get back to UFOs in a minute. In 1975, the United States Navy had the capability of looking at a ship going through a choke point like the Straits of Hormuz or coming out of the Black Sea. They could look at a ship from a distance and tell how much fissionable material is on that ship. And I don't know, the Russians were talking about it in the late 60s. We were talking about it in the early 70s. By 74, it became available to be put in an airborne platform, P3s, and it's probably the EP3s, the Ares 2. And they said they had the ability to overfly a ship, look down, know how much weapons-grade material is on board. So I asked a couple people at the Skunk Works, if that ability does in fact exist, and a platform is built by money coming from OPEC, from the $6 billion slush fund from the National Reconnaissance Office or the National Security Agency, it would be very feasible and very easy to build an Aurora type airplane and a mothership to launch it. Now, has the mothership flown? I had a NASA guy at NASA Dryden in the mid 80s ask me, I was there doing photography, he said, I heard about you, you know about a lot of things. I said, I thought the XB-70s, there was only one and it was in the Air Force Museum. I said, that's correct. He said, But I see one flying over real high altitude over Edwards every once in a while. It's white and it's big. It has canards. The mother airplane. And I bounced this off a number of people, including Ben Rich, and he just smiled at me and he wouldn't say anything. But I don't think they had anything to do with the program, the Aurora. I may be wrong, but my theory was when the Soviet Union broke up, they needed to be able to track fissionable material, the suitcase bombs that became unaccounted for. And there has been no movement outside the former Soviet Union of radioactive material. Every time that it was suspected that there was some movement, we would launch the Aurora. The mother airplane would hit due north of a magnetic 310, go over the pole, over the Black Sea, on the crux of the Barents Sea, north of the Soviet Union, now Russia. It would launch the Aurora. The Aurora would fly with permission over the former Soviet Union, over the breakaway republics, go right down the middle of the Persian Gulf, air refuel out of Diego Garcia, and then recover in Area 51. And one of my conversations I had with Ben Rich, while he was still president of Skunk Works, and we're talking about Aurora and stuff like that. He was talking about the tester model. John Andrews developed the mother airplane they called the SR-75 and the XR-7 penetrator. That was the Aurora. And he was talking about John's model, and he said, I'm really disappointed in John. He usually gets things right. I said, why are you disappointed? He said, well, a liquid methane fueled Mach 12 airplane would have to have an internal volume at least 4 times the size of his model. So what Ben told me is it was fueled with liquid methane. It flew at Mach 12, and it was probably had a fuselage about 4 times the physical internal volume of the tester model.
Wow.
And but he did not discount my saying that they've put these sensors in an Aurora type aircraft, and it would track the location of fissionable material. I think if he thought that was too far-fetched, he would have said something. And I said, and I said, what about air refueling cryogenic fuels such as liquid methane? And Ben told me, he said, liquid methane, when it evaporates, it goes up. JP4, when it evaporates, it goes down. JP4 is much more dangerous than liquid methane. And there's no difference, maybe a different boom or internal, it'd have to be insulated of some sort. But you can air refuel cryogenic material fuels such as liquid methane to a receiving aircraft. So it would fly over the former Soviet Union, over the Persian Gulf. It would meet up with a KC-10 out of Diego Garcia, air refuel, be back at Area 51. Total time in the air, 90 minutes.
Wow. So that's a methane fuel, or cryogenically, you said, right?
Correct. Or liquid methane. Any gas that's liquid is cryogenic.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about propulsion systems, one that has been discussed, the circles, the internet, is toroidal energy and element 115.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about those?
Well, Einstein said that there are elements out there in the universe or in the galaxy that far exceed the atomic weight of anything we have here on the ground, on Earth. Bob Lazar said that the scientists he talked to, when they were looking to replicate the propulsion system, the anti-gravity system, he said, we have the ability, and it'll take some time, we have the ability to make element 115 here on Earth, but so far they've only been able to make small quantities. But there's a number of elements that are found elsewhere in the universe that not found here on Earth. We're not the only ones. And to get back to that particular point, I was a docent at Kitt Peak National Observatories. They're about 50 miles due west of Tucson. They're at 7,000 feet. They have 22 optical telescopes, and the largest one being the 4-meter, 13-foot Mayall telescope. But they have a 2.1 that was being managed by Caltech, and over a 5-year period, which ended about a year ago, just in a small portion of our galaxy, they were able to identify 8,000 exoplanets. I mean, this is not speculation. This is hard evidence. And then just before I quit being a docent at Kitt Peak, I enjoyed it up there, but I didn't care for some of the personalities up there. And I'm the type of person that has a tendency to engage mouth before I engage brain. And like my TA, my TI in basic training told me, he said, Goodall, you have everything going for you but your mouth. And that was a Staff Sergeant Hansen. He was a real interesting guy. But it's just, I think I lost track where I was going. I hate that.
We were talking about propulsion systems and
propulsion system, yeah.
And then you were talking about alien or 115. What do you know about toroidal energy? Because I've been told that that's what powers the TR-3B. I could be wrong, hence why I'm asking.
I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you. I really don't know. Michael Schrad has been doing a lot of digging in that area. Have you met Michael?
No, not yet.
Cool. He's sort of my replacement.
Well, definitely, yeah. I would love to talk to him.
I'm in my mid-70s. I've been going out in the desert 50 years. I've been to the fence line at either TTR with Tonopah Test Range or Area 51 about 80 times in the last 40 years.
Wow. Now, did you always fly in, or did you ever take the famous bus?
No, I mean, I've been to the fence line, not necessarily in Area 51. While I was at Edwards in 1964, I had to install some new equipment somewhere. I got on a Fairchild F-27 with the windows blocked out. We took off from Edwards. We flew for about 90 minutes. We're still in the desert. We landed. We pulled up next to a hangar. They had buses, your big Greyhound type buses on either side of us. We got out and we walked right into the hangar with all sorts of weird noise and whatever. And then 5 hours later, after we had a box lunch, 5 hours later, we headed back to Edwards. Was I in Area 51 for the day? More than likely, because it was during flight test of the Blackbirds. And that's why I was there for it, is to install ground-based telemetry equipment for the Category 1 testing of the Blackbird.
Wow. Did you realize, I mean, you fully understood the secrecy of everything going on, but did you ever realize what a, not mythological, but a legend that Area 51 was going to become before it was finally admitted that it existed?
I had no idea.
You just thought it was another base?
Well, I knew there was a secret testing facility out in the desert, but it wasn't, and that was in the early 60s. Now, the way I got into all of this was because of our government's willingness or unwillingness to give me anything I requested, stuff that wasn't classified then, and I was willing to pay for. And they wouldn't respond to my request, or they say denied. And so I started digging. Like I said earlier, I started digging. And the more I found out, the deeper I dug, the more I just kept on going. And when I did the first book on the F-117, I already knew they weren't going to cooperate. So I just didn't even worry about it. And when I was, I had 5 years active duty, I had a 10-year break, and then I went back into the Minnesota Air Guard in 1977. And I spent 21 years as the wing historian. So I was a unit scribe, but I was activated for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And that's
that was 92, right?
90, 91.
Or 99.
But that was also sort of a watershed event as far as Bob Lazar is concerned. So I went there. My job as a historian, I had to read absolutely every transmission to and from CENTCOM.
Wow.
So anything that went to the Middle East or came out of it, I had to read it. And the day I arrived, Desert Shield was already going on for about 4 days. They had about a 6-foot-high stack of 3-wing binders that I had to go through. And my job was to pull anything related to the Air National Guard or the Army Guard, since I was a Guard historian. And every day, the thing I looked at was the flight logs, the call signs and the flight logs of absolutely every airplane that flew. And I was looking for a TR-3B. I was looking for an SR-72. I was looking for some designation I had no knowledge of. And I looked, and I literally looked at every single, tens of thousands of pages and found nothing.
Wow.
But my F-117 book got me in a little bit of trouble because the Air Force said it was classified. I said, "What have you been? A bunch of arrogant bastards. You could have screwed me over, but no, you're just too full of yourself." But while I was there, I had Bob Lazar's W-2 for when he went to work at S4. Now I had marked out his Social Security number. Now I'm in uniform. At the time, I was an E6 tech sergeant. I'm in uniform. I have a couple hours to kill. I was gonna take the shuttle over to Andrews. I was a guard bureau in Alexandria. And I figured, well, I'm going to see if I can find where this place that Bob spent time. So I had his W-2, and it gave the issuing agency. It was U.S. Navy Department. I don't know if it's intelligence or investigations or what. It was an oddball name. It didn't quite fit. But I looked in the directory, the Office of Naval Investigations. So I went over there during lunch hour, and there was a young Lieutenant J.G. behind the desk. I handed him Bob's W-2. I said, "Sir, can you tell me where this place is located?" He looks at it. He gets up. He walks into the 2-star's office. He's there for about a minute or so. And he said, "The Admiral will speak to you now." Now, the Admiral doesn't speak to a E6 puke Air Force guy. He'll barely talk to anybody below his grade if they're in the Navy. So I walk in there and I give him a sharp salute. And he's looking at Bob Lazar's W-2, and he looks at me and he says, "Sergeant, I don't know where you got this, but if I ever see your face come through my threshold again, you're going to be the most sorry son of a bitch in the United States Air Force." And with that, he gets Bob's W-2 and puts it in the shredder.
Wow.
Now, Bob was a fraud. He would not have had that reaction.
That's true. Yeah, that is so true. He would have.
The same with Teller. If Bob was a fraud, Teller would have said, "He's a fraud," and he's not.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like he's lying.
He's told me face to face, this is the worst thing. Going public with what he did at S4 was the worst mistake he ever made.
Yeah.
He said it has screwed his career. It has not screwed his life. He's had a pretty interesting one all the way around.
Have you seen the movie Bob Lazar?
I was at the base camp, the Storm Area 51 base camp in Nico. I also went to Rachel. I had to go and see Pat Travis. I've known her and Joe first time I went into Little Alien was 87.
Hmm.
Even before, and I don't think it was called Little Alien at that time. And they had a gas station there, and they had, probably, 15 or 20 more trailers there on the highway. And it's pretty much empty now. I think some guy who was trying to build a compound for his followers and bought up most of Rachel.
Really? What's the name of this group so I don't get pulled in?
Yeah. I don't know, but Pat and the 52 residents of Rachel are very concerned.
Really?
Yeah, but I was at the base camp for the Storm Area 51.
How was it? I missed out on it. I was supposed to go.
Well, for 3 weeks leading up to that, they tried to cancel it, and everybody was reporting Storm Area 51 thing is canceled. Storm Area 51 event is canceled. So overall, if you take everybody that was at Rachel and sort of scattered around the desert there in Rock Springs Valley, where Rachel's located, and the people that came to the base camp, which is about 40 miles from Rachel, it's before you get over Hancock Summit. George Harris is the guy who owns that. Great guy. He had a huge setup there. There was a stage. He had one of the top disc jockeys from the world was there. He's into UFOs. Excuse me. A lot of vendors, but if you add them all up, there's 2,500 to 3,000 total. But there were probably 2,500 to 3,000 law enforcement and spooks and FBI and whatever in the desert. Half sort of in the middle of Tipico Valley, as I'm heading to Rachel, I see this huge compound. I said, "Oh, those are the guys that are getting ready to to storm the gate." I pulled over, and I drive a Corvette, and they were pushing them. They weren't letting any other cars stop, but they let me stop. They must have known it was Jim Goodall. And so I'm talking to one of the Nevada State Police, and we're just shooting the breeze. That was their command center.
Wow. Yeah.
And the word had come down from the Pentagon that the Area 51 perimeter will not be breached, period. And they had a lot, probably everything that was available in the Western United States as far as non-lethal crowd control equipment.
Mm-hmm.
They have both microwave, which makes you feel like you're on fire.
Yeah, the ELF weapons.
Yeah. And then they have
burn inside.
Yeah. And then they have what they call brown sound. I don't know if it's extremely low frequency.
But it's directional.
Yeah, but you can just sweep it on the crowd.
Yeah, make them all throw up.
No, it makes you fill your pants.
Oh, is that what that does? Oh.
Yes, that's why they call it the brown sound.
Oh.
And your level of enthusiasm is diminished quite a bit when you have a pants full of poop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
That's humiliating.
I mean, can you imagine running there all of a sudden you get hit with this thing and your pants just it evacuates your intestines.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dirty tricks.
Yeah. There was only one arrest on the 20th and the 21st. That was some kid at the gate, the back gate of Area 50. Wow.
Whoa.
That was a light. I'll just turn it
all
off.
right?
Yeah. No, I had a light shining my stuff behind me, and it probably got hot and just fell down.
Oh,
it's fine.
Are you sure you don't got ghosts or something?
Yeah. Well,
because at first you were glitching when you were getting into the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh my gosh, they're shutting them down, and then that happened.
Well, there's only been one guy arrested, and he took out his willie and decided to christen the new gate, and he did it right in front of a cop, and he got arrested for indecent exposure.
Oh, that's silly.
So this the best way to describe the Storm Area 51, I think it's an event that's going to go on almost like the beginning of Burning Man. The first year of Burning Man, there was a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
I think this last year, the it was something like 70,000 people were there. So they're gonna do it up big next year, both at the base camp, and I'm sure they're gonna try to do it at Rachel. Rachel doesn't have a backer, but the Area 51 base camp does, and that's George Harris. But it was fun. It was just I ran into quite a few people I know, or a couple of people recognized me, and that surprises me no end. When I was at the conference,
you mentioned that you were like, I'm surprised people know who I am.
I am. I was just blown away. I said, I'm just a guy who likes airplanes and like things that go bump in the night. Mm-hmm. But I'm also a guy who likes to push the envelope, and I have never ever been one to play within the lines or stay in the box.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who's always stepping out. Maybe I can get my hand slapped or get kicked in the butt, but that's how you move forward.
Yeah, and we need more people like that.
And I was on a program here a couple nights ago. Richard Hoagland.
Yeah, Richard Hoagland.
Yeah. I told him I was going to be on your thing tonight.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Brad Olson was on last week and mentioned it too. So that's twice on. Oh wow. And Jimmy Church, somebody called in and talked about me in Disclosure Con. So Jimmy Church now knows. It's like you're saying. It's weird. People now hear your name, and
I can't remember the guys from New England or from Boston, the Boston area. Nice looking guy, had a beautiful wife. He was over in the if you're the booth you were in right here, he was over in the far end against the other wall.
Oh, it was the podcasters, right?
Yeah, very, very, very nice, very nice looking guy.
Yeah, in
his 50s.
Remember his name? Yeah,
I have his card. But he was talking, and I put my card on his desk. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of people around, and I'm just wandering around to see what's there. And I'm real hard of hearing. I only hear out of one ear. That's why I have the headset only in one ear. Mm-hmm. This one's deaf. All of a sudden I hear, Jim Goodall. I turn around. He said, "Oh my God, you weren't on the list of attendees." I said, "Well, I didn't decide to come here until this morning. I came there to see George Knapp. Michael Schratt was there, and I think he was giving a talk. No, he wasn't giving a talk, but Michael Schratt was there, George Knapp was there, and Jeremy Corbell was there. So, and I had that reaction the whole time I was there, and it blew me away. I mean, I'm just a guy who likes airplanes. I'm a guy who is willing to go out and get dirty and spend time in the desert. Mm-hmm. And if anybody out in Cyberland, anybody who's listening to this, we need some youth to go out in the desert and do what I did, what Stu Brown did, with John Andrews, John Lear, and we call them the Dreamland Interceptors. There was about 10 of us, and I think half of them are dead now. We're all about the same age, and some of them were considerably older than me. And now I'm older than they were when they died. So we need some fresh blood. We need people to go out in the desert. The real spooky stuff, and this is guys who flew the airplanes. I've interviewed, the original test pilots for Hab Blue, or, the original test pilots for the Blackbird, for the U-2 and everything else. They said, the real spooky stuff at Area 51 flies on weekends, and preferably on long weekends. And they usually fly within an hour of sunrise. And this is before Fox News and any of the other news, 24-hour news stations, when CNN was the only game in town. I had a point of contact in Atlanta, and I said, I tell you what, if you provide me an H-1 Humvee so I can get up the backside of the Groom Range, pay me X number of dollars, and lease or rent a 600 millimeter telephoto lens from my Nikon, I'll go up there and I'll spend a month up in the Groom Range, and anything and everything that takes off from Area 51 that's a classified program, they all take off to the north.
Hmm.
All the there's 8 tracking cameras. They're about a mile on either side of the center line of the runway. And the first thing, and you can see anything that takes off. You can't see Area 51, the complex, but anything that lifts off the runway, you're going to see it.
Wow.
And it's going to fly right almost eye level by you. And just as it gets Immigrant Valley, it'll turn into the Nevada test site. And the reason why they do it on the weekends, 95% of the people at Area 51 aren't cleared to see this stuff. And most of the Nellis Range is shut down on the weekends. So they really have free reign, and they absolutely love the Christmas break. They do a lot of testing, they do a lot of flying during that time frame, but very rarely do they fly past it, an hour and a half past sunrise or 2 hours past sunrise. But the advantage is the sun's to your back if you're up in the Groom Range, because they're taking other west of you, and they have to fly right in front of your face. And I couldn't get CNN to take me up on my offer. It wasn't going to cost them a lot of money. I mean, I don't know what an H-1 Humvee costs. It's probably a couple $100 a day, but they could probably find one that they didn't have to rent, to get to me. There's a mine just below the summit on the Groom Range, and it's still in the public lands area. You can see the fence line from there. You can see it's well marked. And anything that takes off from Area 51, you can see.
Wow.
But we had a guy called the Swiss Mountain Bat. His name's Mine Rat. He lives outside of Zurich. And he would come here from Switzerland. He and I climbed up the mountain and set up a tent and everything else, but we didn't realize there was a blizzard coming through. And my man heard some, the tent shaking. We had it tied down really good. And, he reaches his hand out, unzips, reaches his hand outside the thing, comes in, throws a snowball at me.
Oh, wow.
Well, it keeps the snakes down.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of snakes. But one of the times I was up there with Stu Brown, we've been up there for 2 or 3 days, and we're sleeping on the ground. We're not in tents. And I'm always concerned about snakes. And they may want, if they're cold, they might want to go somewhere where it's warm, like on my body, into my sleeping bag. Glenn Campbell, not the singer, but the Area 51 research guy.
Yes.
He came up, he set off the sensors. So the security people at Area 51 went looking for us. And we had, have you seen the March 94 issue of Popular Science?
No, March when?
March 94.
Is that the one with the B2 on it? It blue.
No, that's the one that's black and red. That's a picture of Area 51 at night.
I might have.
Yeah, I'll bring one with me.
Okay.
Next weekend.
And I'm willing to take a weekend and go for a hike with you. If you're
well, you need a vehicle.
If you want some young blood, I got a couple people I know for a fact would jump on board.
Well, I need them. I mean, it's and they have to self-initiate. I can't do everything, but I'm willing to. I'm willing to. I don't have an off-the-road vehicle.
Yeah. Oh, I know somebody. Rex Bear, Leak Project. I'm talking to you. Yeah, I'm calling you out. We need to go on a road trip.
Yeah.
So, because he's got this monster off-road vehicle. Yeah, he's always going around exploring stuff. So,
I mean, it's okay. The best time to do it is on the weekends.
Okay.
And if you can get up there, you need a frequency counter. So if you go over and you trip one of the mass sensors they put in the road, which is illegal on public lands.
Yeah.
What you do is, if you have your frequency counter on and you go over a mass center, it'll just get a ding.
Yeah.
And then farther up the road, it'll get another ding. So what they receive back at the command post in Area 51 is on road such and such. Since you're going in, first one, second one, someone just went up the road.
Yeah.
And what you do is you mark it, either get some Dayglow orange paint, mark it. Then you wait about 20 minutes. Then you come back down. Now you've triggered. You're coming down that road, but you've marked where the sensors are. Then you go find you don't touch the mass sensor or the transmitter, but you unscrew the antenna. Then you go back up. Keep all that up here in my ass. I mean, it's just, and they've done the same thing at Tonopah Test Range. Now, it can get interesting out there, especially at night. I was out there with John Lear. This is after the F-117s had left and moved to Holloman. And supposedly Tonopah Test Range was in caretaker status. Well, I was informed that they put in a brand new fiber optics communication system at at Tonopah Test Range, and they put a third perimeter around the area. So I don't think it's in caretaker status. But John are up there. We have night vision goggles on. It's about 11 o'clock at night. We can see all sorts of activity down there. It's about 8 miles away where the flight line is. We're out there with our lawn chairs. That's one of the pieces of equipment that you absolutely need when you're on the desert, is a lawn chair.
Yeah.
And some duct tape, because you want to tape up your pant legs so scorpions and spiders can't go up them. And you're on a chair so you're not sitting on the dirt to have critters crawling on you. But when we're sitting there, our feet are up on the fence, and we see 3 armored personnel carriers coming towards us. Lights are off. One's coming from the west, one comes from the east, one's coming up from the south. And I stand up and yell real loud, "Hey, we're good guys, we're taxpayers." And all of a sudden we had floodlights on us. John had 3 little red dots on his chest. I had 3 little red dots on my chest. They're not going to shoot me. That's too much paperwork. Mm-hmm. But there's a truck coming down we're on BLM property, which is public lands.
Yeah, Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah, Bureau of Land Management. And the guy parked behind John's pickup truck, and he came around. He's in desert camos. He has his hand on his 9mm. He says, "You're in a restricted area, and I'm ordering you to leave." And I said, "Sir, I don't know who you are, but this is public lands, and we don't have to go anywhere." "Yes, you do." I said, "No, we don't." He said, "I'm telling you, you're a restricted area, and I'm ordering you to leave." I said, "Well, according to this government map I have in my back pocket that gives the longitude and latitude of the restricted area, it's an aeronautical map. I'm on public lands. And furthermore, if you look at the base of the fence post where my buddy has his feet up on the barbed wire, there's a USGS medallion that gives the longitude and latitude for the second. I'm in public lands, and I can be here for 15 consecutive days, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it." And you could just see his jaws just tightening up.
Jim, you're my hero.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
But we still have the floodlights on us and the dots, the red dots. He said, "I want to see some ID." I said, "Well, who are you?" So, "I'm Captain so-and-so with ASI, Advanced Security, Inc." I said, "You're a rent-a-cop. You don't have any jurisdiction on this side of the fence. So I've been deputized by Lincoln, Esmeralda, and Nye County to uphold the laws of the state of Nevada and the federal government." I said, "Well, good for you." So I tell you what, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. So he hands me his ASI badge. And I said, "Sir, that's not a valid form of ID. I need something issued by the state or federal government." And he's getting more pissed by the minute. So he reaches in his wallet. He hands me his Nevada driver's license. I didn't have my reading glasses on. Okay. So I pull out, and I was living in Minnesota at the time. I pulled out mine. Lear still has his feet up in the barbed wire. He pulls out his driver's license, and I hand it to the guy. He hands it to a guy on the south side of the fence. He goes to the supervisor, and the supervisor, he turns a light on in his armored personnel carrier, and I hear, "Oh shit, it's Goodall and Lear." And they just, the lights went off, everything stopped. The guy came over, gave us IDs, and he dispersed. But they know they know that they weren't going to intimidate us out of the area, but we also knew that if they knew we were there, they would alter their flight plans. I probably cost the government and the Air Force probably $1 million, or so dollars in canceled flight tests of spooky programs because they knew I was out in the desert.
Mm.
I was given a formal tour of the Nevada test site. I was with Bill Sweetman, who's now with Northrop Grumman, but at the time he was with I think he was with Aviation Week at the time. I was with Stu Brown at Popular Science with me, and a real rocket scientist named Warren James. And we went to the Sedan crater. We had gone to some of the houses and see some of the cratered areas. And I heard on the radio our escort said, "I understand Mr. Goodall's with you." He said, "Yeah, and a couple other guys." "Well, they have to go inside for a couple hours." So we went into the area, to the Mercury command post for the Nevada test site. And it was a fascinating place. That's where they monitored and did whatever they did for both underground and above ground nuclear testing. So the reason why Area 51 is called Area 51, there's a grid from Area 1 to Area 200. And that grid was for tracking fallout. So right next to Area 51 is Area 50, and the other side is Area 52.
Yeah. Wow. Jim,
Yeah.
I just want to hang out with you, So let's talk later about maybe a trip to go, do some sightseeing, some birds, you might say.
If we get a really off the road vehicle, we'll go up there. We'll go up on a Friday and leave Sunday at noon. If they're going to fly something spooky, they're going to do it in the morning.
Okay.
And the rest of the time we can just wander around that part. Now there's probably a couple lawn chairs up there somewhere. I know there's a case of MREs up there that I hauled up, and I put under a bunch of rocks. Nice. So next time we come up,
a nice little cache.
Yeah. So
smart.
It's fun, but we need youth. We need some of the young blood up there. They're not going to shoot you as long as you don't violate the perimeter of Area 51. Now I've done it, and I hope there's no law enforcement because I'll deny it.
This is live.
I know. I had the fraud that I was married to before I met the sweet woman I'm married to today. She made a poncho for me. I had, the survival blankets, the ones that are day-glow on one side and aluminized on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she made a poncho out of it, and she sewed on some infrared suppressive camouflage fabric.
Ooh.
It was desert camouflage, and I went in a long way from the northern fence line, and I kept going over one set of not hill, I guess hills. I went in about 3 miles. It's 30 degrees out. I'm sopping wet from sweat.
Wow.
And if you heard anything, all I had to do was grab my poncho and then curl into a ball and tuck everything underneath me, and I would not be radiating an infrared signature if they were looking for infrared. So I was actually a low observable. I was going in as a stealth man. But I got so nervous I had to head back, and I just
I bet.
But we had another friend. He lives in Japan now, and I won't give his name. He's a former special forces guy. He got contaminated with some really nasty stuff, and he almost died. He lost all his hair, but he's a real character. And he got a sniper suit on, and it took him 4 days. He crawled on his belly from the road on Freedom Ridge, and he's not in lake bed. He's in the desert part. He said he was within about 300 yards of the runway.
Oh, wow.
And he said it was real difficult to try to go to the bathroom or eat or whatever. And he said he had people come by him, within 150 feet. He could hear their conversation. I don't know if they were doing something on the freeway or nav aids, but he was there. It took him 2 days to go in on his belly. He spent a day and a half there, and then worked his way back.
Wow.
Now that takes
Dedication.
kahunas about this big. Yeah. And at the time I had a wife and I had 2 kids at home. There's no way I wanted to end up being a resident of Kansas for any length of time.
Wow.
So
Well, Jim, I can't wait to have you at our event next week and talk to you more. If you guys would like to, well, I'm going to say a few things. If you'd like to meet Jim, come to Disclosure Con next weekend at the Honda Casino Resort. That's October 5th and 6th. Opens to the public at 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. And you can meet him. I'm sure you're bringing some books, right?
Yeah, I'm a procrastinator, and I ordered a case of Blackbird books and a case of B2 books, but they're not going to get here on time. But I do have a half a dozen B2 books and 4 or 5 Blackbird books, and my pictorial on the Los Angeles class fast attacks. I'll bring those with me.
Well, cool. So you're limited on H1. So if you guys want to get it, you got to be there early.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't said wow this many times, and I probably this host doesn't know how to talk to people. I'm just wow.
I'm just a guy who likes airplanes,
yeah,
and who's willing to make the extra effort to go really dig and snoop.
Well, and you are now part of our group that we have. It's called the GSD group because you get shit done. You make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining me on Live tonight, and I so look forward to seeing you next weekend.
Now, should I arrive on Friday?
Yeah, if you want to, and we'll have you set up your booth and everything, and then Saturday we hit the ground running.
Okay.
All right.
It's been my pleasure. I'm glad I ran into you there in Phoenix.
Me too. Yeah.
And you live in Arizona. You don't live in, God forbid, Los Angeles. And it's really sad. I have a dear friend, I knew longer than anybody else in my life other than family members, and he lived in Show Low. And he was a retired police officer from the Bay Area. And but he passed away a year ago this month. His name is David Cooper. He was fairly well known up there. He worked in the school district and.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
We're
a small town, so
yeah.
Real quick, I'd like to give shout outs to the people that have joined since the last time. We have Timothy, Isabel, Philip, Deborah, Christopher, Jill, Jamie, Josh, Lawrence, Amelia, Dat, Alfredo, George, Chris Dalton. Hey, brother, how's it going? Long time. Pat Leal, James, Mikey, Julianne, Brandon, and Samantha. So thank you all for joining us on tonight's show. This was an epic show. And
if Richard Hoagland's listening tonight or watching, I'm going to say hi to him too.
Oh my God, that would be awesome if Richard saw this. I would love to just listen.
He lives in Albuquerque, and that Stu Brown lives here too. So my next trip to Albuquerque, I'm going to go have a sit down with him.
Well, then, if you wouldn't mind, ask him if he wouldn't mind joining you at Disclosure Con next year, 2020. It's going to be an epic year because it's a special anniversary. I can't say too much on it, but it's a big anniversary with a famous celebrity up here, and we want to do something really big. So,
well, I'm going to give a plug for maybe my newest book will be out by then.
Yes, because this is your 26th or 27th book, right?
Right. Well, I'm working on book 26 and 27 right now.
So yeah, let them know.
And if you want my books, you can order them on Amazon. Go in Books by James C. Goodall, Goodall. My B2 book will be there. My Blackbird book and my Los Angeles class book will be there. And later on this spring will be my Virginia class Seawolf book. These are all hardbound, 160 pages, all color, except for my Blackbird book, and that's 224 pages. But what I'm working on right now is the first 75 years of the Lockheed Skunk Works. and that'll be about 300 some odd pages. I'm going to cover hopefully all their non-classified. And since they're going to help me with the book, I mean, they're going to promote it within Lockheed.
Really?
So, yeah. So I can't use some of the classified stuff that I know.
Of course. Yeah. Well,
I don't want to.
I look
I don't
forward.
want to step on my dick on that one. I've done it. I do that enough as it is without even trying. Oh, I don't know if I can say that. Well, this is not broadcast, so it's on the internet. Anything
Friday
goes.
night.
Right.
No FCC issues here.
No, this is true. So, and this has been fun.
It has been. I can't wait to have you on again. I'm going to have you on again. We're going to do a couple more episodes down the line. I just got to get through Disclosure Con in the month of October.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, and thanks to the audience. Everybody was just nothing but compliments and saying hello and welcome to the show. You're a great guest. Not a lot of questions, so that means you had them enthralled as you did me. So so expect to be back on.
Well, either that or they were bored and decided to go to sleep.
Oh no, they're on board.
Yeah.
So well, thank you again, and I will see you next week. And remember, folks, if you want to see him and meet him, get his book, be at DisclosureCon at the Honda Casino Resort next weekend. You can get your tickets online, disclosurecon.com. All right. So
you're going to be there on Friday by what time?
I will be there Friday morning early until about 10 a.m. because then I have to go down the mountain to do airport pickups. And so I'll be back probably later that night. But I got a whole crew of people. I got a crew working on all the sets. All the vendors are going to be there. So you won't be there by yourself. There'll be plenty of people.
Okay. All right.
And we got you all hooked up at the casino. So you're good.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
You have a good one?
What?
You have a good one?
You too. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you in a week.
Sounds
all
good.
Right.
Thank
you.
Sure enough.
All right, folks. This is Doc Skinner with 1028 Live, this special edition Friday night. And I will be doing another show with Don Phillips, but I think I'll be doing it on his channel. So I'll be putting a link onto that. And then on Monday at 4:00 Mountain Time, I will be on the Leak Project with Rex Bear. So, and I will be bringing all this up that we discussed tonight with him because he's going to just drool over it. And other than that, that's about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on the show. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know you did because there was so many hearts. I haven't had that many hearts in one episode ever.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Beginner's luck, right?
Right. So until next time, everybody, this is Doc Skinner saying goodnight. Jim, I'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure. And anytime, as long as I'm not, as long as I'm can be in front of a computer, you got me.
Awesome. Well, you enjoy your week. Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Doc Skinner, I'm out.
Bye.